I have Dave with me. He is Unicycle Dave on Twitter, and he has unicycled across Canada, which is pretty darned impressive. And he also likes hardware hacking, and he's got some lights, which I am hoping he'll tell us more about because they're stage lights and they're DMX lights, and I don't know anything about that system. And I know that there are protocols and systems involved for like theater and stage lights, and I would love to learn more about that. So, yeah, I don't know where we should even start. Should we start with like unicycle shenanigans or should we start with lights and what
Why
you're
don't I
doing?
talk about these a little bit, just because I'm probably going to start fidgeting with them, and I can kind of explain like what I've been building and why, and then we can go into, I don't know, we can talk about whatever else makes sense. So yeah, so basically the camera that is on my hands right now is something, it's actually like an 80-20 rig with like a 3D printed gimbal and all this stuff. So it does like positional and it's got like a zoom mode and stuff as well. So you can also like have a look in and like check closer at stuff. So it's kind of a neat little widget. However, the lighting for this part of my room sucks. And so I went on this like over engineering journey of like building some lights. And it started probably like a year and a half ago. And basically I had designed these boards, which are actually, there's another piece of hardware that I bought, which is like these little like smartphone size, like bicolor, like lighting things.
Yeah, I think we
And they're
have
really
those.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
like they're fantastic and like I love them a lot. However, there's one on me right now, but they die, right? Like you have to charge them. They don't run over power. You can't control them remotely. And they're not as bright as I wanted them to be. So I did a little bit of shopping on DigiKey. I found these like 95 CRI modules in 2 colors. Did some research, learned about aluminum PCBs. So like this is an aluminum board, which yeah, it was really cool. I've spun a couple boards in my life, but this one is cool because it's the first time I've done anything in aluminum. It gave me an excuse to do that. And the end result, like that I thought would be cool. Oh, and there was something else that tied into the project, which is I had sliders that came from like one of those high-end like film like mixing boards that have like a servo controller on them. And so like they move to a position if you want them to. Yeah. And I was like, oh, what if I built a lighting board for my desk? And then I was like, well, okay, I'm going to be DMX, so I can like tie it into like another system if I want, and like all kinds of, it just led to vastly over engineering this problem.
What is the
So,
DMX
yeah.
system and protocol? Because like I hear that all the time, but I've never really worked with stage lighting or like real, kind of theater lighting. So yeah.
It's so simple. So DMX is RS-485, which is like a serial protocol that's also used, like for like industrial control and stuff like that. But it's literally just RS-485 at 250,000 kilobaud, and you just send out 512. It's called DMX 512 because you send out 512 different settings, one after the other, and you just repeat that over and over again. And you just do that, and then the lights just listen for the start of the packet, find where they are in the address space, and go, oh, like those are my values, and then set whatever they're doing, an actuator or anything that you're doing, brightness, like they just translate that into whatever they're supposed to do. They do it. There's no like the light cannot communicate back to the board in most setups. Literally just like the board is like, do this, and the lights do it. And that's it.
Just like dumb receivers, basically.
Yeah.
So for anybody listening who's like not familiar with like RS-485 and other things, you might already be familiar with like UARTs or maybe even RS-232 protocol or serial communications via those old school DB9 dongles that, used to plug into the back of your computer, which USB has pretty much kind of made obsolete, kind of. But RS-485, so it's a serial protocol. There tends to be a transmit and receive. And RS-232, there's like a dedicated transmit line, a dedicated receive line, and you usually have ground. You can have other signals for handshaking, but they're not absolutely necessary. And basically it's very, very similar to just like transmit and receive UART communications that come from a microprocessor, but just like level shifted and inverted a little bit. So you usually, in order to hook up like a processor directly to a computer, assuming that it has a old school DB9 port, you would usually still have to have a chip in between that did like a little bit of level shifting and a converting. RS-485 is similar, but it's differential. So it basically, you can run it for longer lengths, and it is less sensitive to noise. So
Yep.
I imagine it would be very good for theater applications where, you know, you
Yep.
might be running hundreds and hundreds of feet between your lights.